Why is Formula One hosting a secret preseason test with no fans, no media, and no TV broadcast to kick off the 2026 season? F1 cars will be testing in January for only the third time since in-season testing was banned in 2009. Now, the last time was 2014 when there was a major rules change. This is very much the same. 2026 is the biggest evolution of Formula One cars in over a decade. We have a brand new rules package, brand new V6 engines, the DRS system is gone, and the overtake mode comes in to replace it, and there's a new buzzword for you, active aero. Traditionally, Formula One has always hosted pre-season tests in the weeks leading up to the first race of the season. Over the past few years, we've usually had 2 3-day tests in Bahrain. Things are a bit different this season. We're starting with 5 days of testing in Barcelona, and the overall amount will be 11 days in total. Now, you know this first week is a pre-season test. I know it's a pre-season test. Officially, though, Formula One are giving it something a little bit different. This is officially being named the Barcelona Shakedown Week. Might not be the most catchy title ever, but there is a good reason why Formula One are calling it that and not a pre-season test. F1 has a contract with the Bahrain International Circuit, which gives it exclusive rights to hosting pre-season testing. Bahrain will host 2 tests in February, pre-season test 1 and pre-season test 2. So what are the rules of F1's Shakedown Week? Teams will be allowed to test for 3 of the 5 days, and on those days, they can run for as long as the circuit is open. Now, on a normal pre-season test, when there's media and when there's a TV broadcast, drivers and teams are splitting their time between their on-track stuff and their media obligations. There's none of that this time around. Their time is their own to do with what they please. Because of these new regulations, teams were keen to have as much testing going into 2026 as possible, and that's why we've ended up with the shakedown test that we currently have. Now, Barcelona is the perfect venue for this. It's much closer as a testing facility to all 11 of the teams than Bahrain would be. It means they can fly parts out much easier. Logistically, it's less of a nightmare, and especially for a test which might be fraught with reliability issues, etc. This is the perfect place to start the season. Now, as this event will not be officially broadcast, Formula One is supplying some cameras on track for the teams. Teams will also be capturing their own content to control the narrative a little bit about what's going on, and while timing will be available to fans, that lap-by-lap context that is usually so crucial to understanding pre-season tests might be quite difficult to come by. Making sense of some of this information during the week might be difficult, and a cautionary tale already does exist from one of Audi's filming days at the same venue this month. A blurry image of a car, enhanced by AI, was scrutinized by fans on social media, but the enhanced image was not real. A telltale sign was a lack of driver in the cockpit. With intricate design details of cars always a huge point of interest during pre-season, especially during a rule change as big as this, keep an eye on where your information is coming from as testing goes on. So what about the F1 cars themselves? Formula One cars are undergoing a major weight loss program in 2026. They'll be about 30 kilos lighter with a much thinner wheelbase. F1 hopes the smaller and lighter cars are more nimble and therefore better at wheel-to-wheel racing. As for the engines, F1 is shifting more and more towards electrification. The new engines are still 1.6-litre V6 turbos like before, but the old engines were around 80% powered by the internal combustion engine and only 20% by electrical power. That split is now closer to 50-50. F1 has achieved this through a more powerful battery, while also shifting more towards sustainable fuels in a bid to make the new engines even more road relevant for manufacturers. Removal of expensive components from the previous iteration were key in enticing the likes of Audi and Ford to commit to the current generation of engine. A significant feature from a racing perspective will be the new overtaking power boost, which replaces the old drag reduction system, otherwise known as the DRS. The idea is the same. Drivers must be a second behind the car in front at certain points on the racetrack, but now the increase in speed comes through an additional power boost internally from the battery, rather than from an aerodynamic device at the back of the car. Now, confusingly, aerodynamic devices do still exist under these cars, and for this, I've enlisted the help of, admittedly quite a basic Formula One car. The front and rear wing, under the new rules, will look more basic than they've looked in previous years, and this has been done by design by Formula One, but they are arguably as important as ever before in dictating the outcome of Formula One weekends. Drivers can now control the wing angles of the front and the rear of the car from inside the cockpit, and this is the concept known as active aero, and this will be vital in terms of performance during a lap, during a race, and will require a lot of talk between drivers and engineers, especially in the early stages of the season as this concept is just being learned by everybody. One team has told me that one of their drivers, who was a rookie in 2025, I'll let you work out who that might be, there's only a handful to pick from, has struggled quite a bit getting to grips with this in early simulator sessions, and I think that's going to continue as the new year unfolds. More experienced drivers, think of your Fernando Alonso's and your Lewis Hamiltons, both of whom have gone through a handful of rule changes to this point, might well benefit from this added complexity to Formula One. Now, most important of all, who is going to be top dog in 2026? A major rule change in Formula One usually promises a completely rejigged pecking order. You can think Brawn GP in 2009 or Mercedes in 2014. And let's not forget how Mercedes stopped being the top dog in 2022 with the last introduction of cars known as the ground effect era came into force. Of course, it's impossible to predict anything at the moment without seeing these cars, but the paddock chatter at the end of last year was that Mercedes is increasingly confident about the strength of its new engine. That in itself would set up a fascinating narrative if true. What would happen, for example, if Mercedes continued to be beaten to titles by McLaren, who it supplies its own engines to? Honda has left Red Bull and has linked up with Aston Martin and Adrian Newey, which is perhaps the most fascinating project going into 2026. Aston Martin owner Lawrence Stroll has invested heavily in the team to win a championship under this very rule change. Pressure is going to be sky high on that team if they're off the pace after years and years of waiting for and talking about this very moment. As for Honda's old partner Red Bull, they're building their own engines in-house for the first time ever with the assistance of Ford. There's a new name, Red Bull Powertrains. Expect to hear plenty of talk about that under the new rules. Then, of course, we have Ferrari. Now, there's always pressure on Ferrari to deliver under a new rules change, and it feels like it's higher than ever before going into 2026. Fans will remember 2022. Ferrari started strongest, winning 2 of the first 3 races, and then just faded completely. Enzo Ferrari once said, aerodynamics are for people who can't build engines, but annoyingly for Ferrari, they're going to have to nail both sides of that equation if they're going to be the team to beat in 2026. Charles Leclerc has already hinted that the first few races under this new regulation cycle might well dictate whether he stays or leaves in 2027. So everything is riding on how this starts for Ferrari. Another new piece of the puzzle in 2026 will be Cadillac, an American team, the first to join outright since Haas did in 2016. They're running Ferrari engines initially, but General Motors is already building engines to race with by the end of the decade. The other new team, and I'm putting them in inverted commas for a reason, will be Audi. Now, Audi have completed this year the takeover of the Sauber team, a process that was going on for a few years leading into 2026. They'll be Audi now, fully, into the new season, but they're also running, crucially, their own engine, meaning they're a fully fledged manufacturer, which means they build everything they race with. Audi are doing that across 2 factories. They've inherited Sauber's old base in Switzerland, and they're building their own engine in Germany. They're the first engine manufacturer to join Formula One since Honda did in 2015, and Audi will be completely aware of how badly that went for Honda in 2015. I would say their biggest goal out of the gate is just purely to avoid a humiliating start like Honda had then. Formula 1 preseason is always a guessing game to some degree, but Shakedown week might well create more questions than it answers.